Welcome to the deep dive. So let's talk about financial success. What really drives it? Is it, being a math genius?
Or maybe having some kind of crystal ball for the market.
Exactly.
Well,
Or is it something else? Something maybe a bit more, human.
uh-huh.
Today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're diving deep into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Great book. Really foundational.
It really is. And it's not just your typical finance advice, is it? It's more this brilliant look at how our own minds, our biases, emotions, our personal histories really shape everything we do with money.
Absolutely.
So our mission today is pretty clear. Let's pull out the biggest, most impactful ideas from Housel's work. We want to help you understand those powerful, sometimes kind of surprising human behaviors behind why we win or lose with money.
And Housel's the perfect guide for this. He's got this background, former columnist for the Wall Street Journal, The Motley Fool. Now he's a partner at Collaborative Fund.
Right.
He's built this amazing reputation for mixing really compelling stories with deep financial wisdom.
He makes complex stuff feel simple, accessible.
Totally. He just has this knack for it, shifting the focus away from just numbers and charts to the psychology underneath it all, our relationship with money.
Okay, so let's get into it. Housel pretty much starts by saying, forget the complex calculations, right? He argues financial success isn't really about IQ points or how good you are with spreadsheets, or even if you can guess where the market's heading. He says it's something more fundamental. What's he getting at there?
Yeah, it's crucial. What Housel hammers home, and it's often missed, is that controlling your own emotions, the big ones like greed and fear,
Yeah.
that's what's really paramount.
More important than being smart.
He makes a really strong case for it. He points out that people with, say, average intelligence, but who have really solid discipline, they often do way better financially than maybe quote-unquote geniuses who just can't control their impulses.
Impulses like jumping in when things look hot or panicking when they drop.
Exactly. Those people who can't manage greed when everyone's euphoric or fear when the market tanks. So Housel's insight is that our internal game, our emotional stability, that's often a much bigger factor in our success than just raw brain power.
That feels really empowering, actually, because it means it's not about some God-given talent you either have or you don't.
Right.
It's about stuff you can actually work on, like discipline, emotional control. But, if it's that straightforward, why isn't everyone with good discipline rich? What's the big hurdle?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the biggest hurdle is probably just being human. We tend to think we're more rational than we actually are. Plus, you've got the constant noise from the financial world, right? You see someone else making a quick buck or the market takes a dive, and bam, those emotions just hijack your long-term plan.
So discipline isn't easy when fear or FOMO kicks in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Housel basically argues the market rarely rewards that kind of impulsivity. It demands a sort of stoicism, maybe, an acceptance that things won't always feel great, but you stick to your reasonable plan anyway.
Okay, so behavior and discipline are huge. But what about those times when things just seem to go incredibly right or terribly wrong, almost out of the blue? Housel talks a lot about luck and risk.
A big theme.
We love telling stories about the lone genius succeeding against all odds, but he suggests it's often more complicated. A mix of skill and, just chance.
Yeah, and if you zoom out, you see it everywhere. He uses the Bill Gates example, right?
Right, the early access to a school computer.
Exactly. Housel points out that many big financial successes aren't just about individual talent or working super hard. It's often that talent combined with, perfect timing and a specific set of outside circumstances.
Things you couldn't plan for.
Totally. Like Gates having access to one of the very few high school computers back when computing was just starting. Understanding this isn't about downplaying effort, though. It's about fostering a bit of humility. Right.
Recognizing luck helps you keep perspective. You don't get a massive ego when things go well, and you don't beat yourself up too much when random risks pop up. It's about knowing some things are just outside your control.
That's such a healthy way to look at it. It stops you from constantly comparing your own journey, maybe your struggles, to someone else's curated success story. And reminds you, okay, there are bigger forces at play. You do your part, control what you can, but respect the randomness too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Builds resilience without making you passive.
Okay, so if discipline is key, and we acknowledge luck, how do we actually build wealth systematically? Housel brings up something that sounds almost too simple. Compounding.
Ah, yes. The eighth wonder of the world, supposedly.
Right. Why is it so powerful, yet it feels that so many people underestimate it or don't really grasp it?
Housel does a fantastic job explaining it. He shows how these small, consistent actions like regular investing, good savings habits, even just learning a bit more about finance regularly, they can balloon into something huge over long stretches of time.
It's not intuitive, is it? That slow start.
Not at all. Our brains think linearly, but compounding is exponential.
Yeah?
Warren Buffett is the poster child here, right? Housel emphasizes that Buffett's insane wealth isn't necessarily from, like, some secret investing sauce nobody else has.
It's more boring than that.
In a way, yeah. It's much more about his incredible consistency, starting super early, sticking with his strategy, and just letting compounding do its quiet work for decades upon decades.
So patience is the real superpower.
Exactly. It's the boring wins idea. Patience, not flashy moves, builds lasting wealth. It's hard day to day because you don't see dramatic results immediately.
It really makes you rethink those small daily financial choices, that automatic monthly transfer to savings, maybe sipping the fancy coffee sometimes. It feels small now, but Housel shows how that's the snowball starting its roll down a very, very long hill. It can become enormous.
Yeah, exactly right.
Now, accumulating money is one thing, but then what? How do we think about what wealth even means? Housel really pushes back against the usual status symbols. You know, the expensive car, the giant house.
Of visible stuff.
Yeah. He says something like, expensive cars and big houses reflect spending, not saving. What's his alternative view?
This is such a core idea. He asks, what is real wealth? And he brilliantly reframes it. It's not the stuff you can show off. It's the unseen financial freedom.
Meaning?
The assets you build up, the savings, the investments that give you options, control over your time, flexibility. That's wealth, not the stuff you buy to impress others.
Okay.
And this ties straight into his crucial concept of enough. He argues that figuring out what's enough for you is incredibly liberating.
Why liberating?
Because without that internal finish line, you're stuck on this endless treadmill, constantly chasing more. It's exhausting, leads to taking stupid risks, and honestly makes you unhappy.
Yeah.
Because, as he puts it, comparison is the enemy of contentment.
Oof. That hits home. If you're always looking over your shoulder at what someone else has.
You'll never feel like you have enough. You'll never feel truly wealthy, even if you technically are.
That's really profound. It forces you, the listener, to pause and think, what's my definition of wealth? Is it just piling up cash, or is it the freedom and peace of mind that money can buy? How do you define enough? What would that look like in your life?
Big questions. Necessary questions.
Definitely. Okay, lastly, in the core themes, Housel talks a lot about long-term thinking, especially when markets get scary, right? Those downturns, the volatility. It's tough emotionally.
It really is. Our instincts scream sell.
So what's his advice for navigating that roller coaster?
He really emphasizes that just staying invested and, crucially, not panicking during those downturns, that's the real edge. It's not glamorous, but it's effective. Wealth is built over decades, he says, not months or a couple of years.
It requires patience again.
Huge patience. And it connects back to his points on humility and resilience. Accepting that uncertainty is part of the deal, being prepared for bumps, that's way more useful than trying to predict the future perfectly.
But why is it so hard to do in the moment?
Well, our brains are wired to react to immediate threats. Right? Seeing your life savings drop, even on paper, feels like a direct threat. It triggers that fight or flight response, pushing us towards short-term, often damaging decisions.
So the insight is? The
real insight Housel offers is understanding these drops aren't necessarily failures of your strategy. They're more like the price of admission you pay for the potential of long-term returns. You got to pay the fee to get the reward later.
That reframes it completely. So this encourages you, the listener, to embrace that long view. See market dips not as disasters, but as normal fluctuations, part of the process. Have the grit to ride them out, knowing time is probably your best friend.
Well said. It's about fortitude.
Okay, let's move into some really practical tips that kind of flow from all this psychology. First one, save more than you think you need. Simple, but why is it so effective?
Well, the key thing Housel points out is that focusing on your savings rate is way more powerful and much more reliable than constantly chasing hard-to-get high returns.
Because you control your savings rate, but not market return.
Exactly. High returns are often outside your control, unpredictable, and usually come with taking on more risk. But how much you save? That's totally up to you.
Right.
So instead of stressing about finding the next big stock or the perfect timing, the better focus is just diligently controlling your spending and saving a bigger chunk of your income.
What does that give you?
It gives you a buffer, a margin of safety, flexibility, options that money alone can't buy, really. It's about giving yourself the ultimate power, choice.
And that's a fantastic point. It puts the control right back in your hands. You can't boss the market around, but you absolutely can control your spending and saving habits. We often forget how much power lies right there.
Fundamental power.
Okay, another really interesting tip Housel has is embrace reasonable rational. That sounds counterintuitive for finance, doesn't it?
It totally does. And that's kind of Housel's genius shining through again. He gets that we're humans, right? Oh. Emotional creatures, not logic machines.
So what does reasonable over rational mean in practice?
The idea is you should invest in a way you can actually stick with over the long haul, even if it's not the absolute mathematically optimal strategy according to some textbook.
Stick with it, math beats perfection.
Pretty much. He says, a good enough plan followed consistently beats a perfect plan abandoned midway. Why? Because you couldn't handle the stress or the complexity of the perfect plan.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like maybe a simple diversified index fund strategy lets you sleep at night. That's way better than some super complex active trading strategy that might look better on paper, but causes you to panic and sell everything the moment the market dips 10%. And this links back to his idea of individual differences. What works for your neighbor's personality and risk tolerance might be a disaster for yours. Personal finance has to be, well, personal.
So for you listening, this means your own comfort level, your ability to stay consistent. Those are actually really powerful tools. Don't chase a strategy that ties your stomach in knots, even if someone online swears it's the best.
Find what works for you, for your temperament.
What allows you to stay in the game for the long run. It's about endurance, not short-term optimization.
Precisely. Longevity wins.
All right, next up. Expect volatility and protect against risk. He's basically saying don't be surprised when markets go haywire.
Yeah, it's not if, it's when and how often. He really drives home that market downturns aren't some kind of system error.
They're the price of admission.
That's the phrase. The cost you pay for the chance at long-term growth. And you absolutely cannot confuse short-term market noise, the daily ups and downs, with long-term failure of your strategy.
So how do we protect ourselves knowing this volatility is coming?
The key is maintaining what Housel calls a margin of safety. Think of it like a financial buffer or cushion.
Like an emergency fund.
That's a big part of it, yeah. Having enough cash to cover months of expenses so you're not forced to sell investments at a bad time if you lose your job. But it also means broad diversification, not having all your eggs in one basket.
And avoiding
getting overextended, too much debt, especially high-interest debt, or making huge speculative bets you can't afford to lose. The margin of safety means when the inevitable storm hits, you're prepared, not panicked. You have the breathing room to ride it out, maybe even see opportunities.
So volatility isn't a bug, it's a feature. Accepting that is step one. Preparing for it with a margin of safety is step two. That seems crucial for differentiating those who panic and those who stay disciplined.
Absolutely. Understanding the nature of the beast.
Okay, and the final practical tip we'll cover, it's a classic but so relevant. Avoid lifestyle inflation. That trap people fall into when they start earning more.
Oh yeah, the golden handcuffs.
Explain that.
This insight is simple but powerful. Just because your paycheck gets bigger doesn't mean your spending has to get bigger at the same rate. Housel observes that for so many people, more income just means more expenses.
Keeping up with the Joneses or just upgrading everything?
Yeah, maybe a bit of both. They end up on this treadmill working harder just to maintain an ever-escalating lifestyle. The goal, Housel argues, should be to protect your freedom and independence. You do that by keeping spending somewhat in check, even as your income grows.
Why is that freedom so important?
Because, according to Housel, money's greatest real value isn't the stuff it buys. It's the freedom it provides. Freedom over your time. Freedom to make choices. Independence.
Right.
If every single raise you get just goes towards a bigger mortgage, a fancier car payment, more expensive vacations, you're not actually gaining freedom. You're just locking yourself into needing that higher income even more. You're increasing your obligations.
So it's about choosing independence over constant indulgence.
Exactly. Choosing to keep some distance between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is your freedom.
That's a really powerful thought for you, the listener, to chew on. As your income potentially grows over your career, what if, instead of automatically upgrading your lifestyle to match, you consciously chose to upgrade your financial freedom first? What kind of choices might that open up for you down the road?
It could be life-changing.
And that kind of brings us to the end of our deep dive into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. We've really seen how financial success seems to be way less about complicated math
or market timing.
and much more about these timeless human behaviors. Things like discipline, patience, humility, having the right perspective.
Housel's work is such a great shortcut, really. A shortcut to getting smarter about your own relationship with money. He highlights that it's less about the intricate what you know and so much more about the how you behave.
It's a really valuable lens for looking at your own financial choices, isn't it?
Absolutely. It reminds us that often the keys to our financial future aren't hidden in some complex spreadsheet, but right there, inside our own minds.
Yeah. Which leaves us with a final, maybe provocative thought for you to ponder. If our financial decisions really are driven more by the stories we tell ourselves, our emotions, our past experiences, than by spreadsheets, what story are you currently telling yourself about your money? And how might that story be shaping your financial future right now?
Something to think about.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We look forward to exploring another topic with you next time.